Good day and welcome to the Richmond Memorial Health Foundation Hearts 2020 webinar. Today's conference is being recorded. At this time, I would like to turn the conference over to Director for Health Equity, Arts and Culture, Kendra Jones. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Ian. Good morning. Thank you for joining this webinar. The purpose of this webinar is to provide background information on RMHF, Richmond Memorial Health Foundation, explain why we invest in programs with arts and culture at the intersection, and tell you all about what you can expect if applying for HEARTS, our Health Equity and Arts program, and what to expect if you're selected for funding. I will even provide information on how you benefit from this opportunity if you are not selected for funding. So again, thank you for joining. There will be a portion at the end of the presentation where I will take questions, and there is a box where you're able to type in your questions. I hope you all had the opportunity to read through the RFP. We opened it with an excerpt of a poem called An Exercise in Ritual. It seemed fitting to open the RFP creatively, as it also does for this presentation. The content in the poem, the words, excellently set the tone for why we invest at the intersection of arts and health. It's truly befitting for our reason why for HEARTS, answering the questions, why art? Why artist? So very brief here. I want to provide a little background information on RMHF. We are a health legacy foundation. So what does that mean? Well, our foundation came about from the closing of Richmond Memorial Hospital. Prior to the last few years, we traditionally funded grants that supported access to health care. But in order to address the social, economic, and structural conditions that contribute to poor health outcomes, the social determinants of health, we realized we needed to do more and look at health holistically with a sense of urgency, nurturing relationships, and working collaboratively to make an even bigger impact in our region. So how do we do that? Well, we first updated our mission and focused on health equity. And it took us some time to formalize exactly what we meant by health equity. And truthfully, our definition is still a work in progress, but we are starting with this. Health equity means everyone has a fair and just opportunity to be as healthy and well as possible. This requires engaging communities and partners to reduce health disparities by removing obstacles to health such as poverty, discrimination, and their consequences. You will see throughout the HEARTS RFP that we mention housing equity as well, meaning that everyone has access to safe and affordable housing in our region. RMHF decided to include this specifically given our region's current housing crisis, and that safe housing is also a social determinant of health. The social determinants of health, the conditions of where people live, work, and age that are shaped by money, power, and resources, require a cross-sector and an interdisciplinary approach to truly create the greatest impact on moving the needle towards health equity. The cross-sector connection between arts and health is the perfect example of a creative, collaborative approach, and with a proven and measurable impact on an individual's health, community health, and solutions for policy change, ultimately advocating for overall population health. There is extensive research detailing the direct health benefits of access to and participation in the arts for individuals. Some are highlighted on the screen. The University of Florida's Arts and Medicine program has documented this comprehensively. In order to build a culture of health at the community level where health equity is front and center, all people must have voice and control their own narrative. Creative expression has always proven to be a pathway to reveal the true nature of a community's health, allowing the broader community to see and understand their experiences. Community engagement using various forms of art has often led to bigger conversations, sparked movements, and eventually called for changes to inequitable policies, which is vital for overall population health. This slide right here is a wonderful depiction of the trajectory we hope the HEARTS program follows, creating awareness and understanding, facilitating dialogue, understanding what people envision, building capacity, increasing civic engagement, mobilizing, and ultimately creating change that is lasting. Changes to systems creating access and equity. So, after hearing all of that, the question you should be asking and answering in your proposal is, what is this change you want to see happen through the creative process with your project? I have included a lot of resources here to help. They are also in the RFP. These resources will help you think about health equity, arts and health, and creating healthy communities. I have also listed some helpful guides to make your RFPs more successful as well. Please take a look at number 3 here, creating healthy communities through cross-sector collaborations. Starting on page 19 in this white paper, it gives examples of projects with visuals on cross-sector collabs with arts at the center on issues such as collective trauma, racism, social exclusion and isolation, mental health, and chronic disease. With each project highlighted in this white paper, it shares the impact it made in the community. It's well written, and I am positive you will find it very, very helpful. So RMHF actually started investing in the arts in 2017. Our first cohort included a $63,000 investment made directly to artists to work with community while considering questions like, what does it mean to be well? How do aspects of identity such as race, ethnicity, gender, age, migrant status, and socioeconomic status relate to health outcomes? What structural barriers exist to achieving states of physical, mental, and social well-being? And then in 2018, we upped our investment to $100,000 with the goal of HEARTS to integrate the arts into our core work by funding cross-sector, non-traditional partnerships of nonprofit organizations, artists, and the underserved communities they work with, all in an effort to propose creative solutions in removing the barriers they face in achieving health and housing equity. So what's different this year? Well, our previous cohorts were one-year funding opportunities. HEARTS 2020 will be a 2-year funding opportunity with a total investment of $300,000. Funding opportunities for selected projects will be for grants of up to $60,000. We are forever learning and appreciate that real change cannot happen in 1 year. 2 years is a stretch, but it's a start. It's growth, and I'm happy to see it happening here at RMHF. We will fund organizations working with artists to impact change in our communities. Our investment in arts and culture at the intersection of health and housing demonstrates the power of art to promote health equity. We are encouraging grantees to integrate meaningful community engagement, provide leadership development, and lift community voices to advocate for solutions to the persistent inequalities in health and housing. Some of the aspirations we have for the next cohort of HEARTS programming is to highlight the unique role art plays in authentically honoring the voice and integrity of the people, places, stories, and ideas that emerge from HEARTS projects by documenting the great work you do, especially with removing obstacles to participation for community members, having knowledgeable staff present, and having established trust with the community. We want the communities to have agency in naming the barriers impacting their health and housing needs. They should be instrumental in co-creating potential solutions and advocating for changes to the inequitable policies they face. We had past grantees take community members, both young and older adults, in front of City Council, before the mayor. They held exhibits to bring greater awareness, all in the effort to call for changes. So what will your project propose? So what are some of the expectations if you receive Hearts 2020 funding? Well, we strongly encourage all grantees to attend racial equity trainings, knowing that unfortunately race is the reason most of these inequities exist. One of these trainings will be in the fall. We encourage you to attend quarterly co-learning sessions with other cohort members, RMHF staff, and guest speakers. During our first session in July, we will discuss if the proposed timeline works for all. We always want to honor your time. And with all of our funding opportunities, an interim and a final report will need to be completed. All right, this slide right here shows the exact questions that are on the application. Exactly. You will also have to attach a project timeline, a budget, resumes for the artist or the main artist, an artist project statement, and some related creative works from the artist. Excuse me, I had to take a sip of water. So RMHF will engage a panel of local and national field experts on health, housing, and art as external reviewers to evaluate all applications. We will have 2 national reviewers and 3 local reviewers. They will receive all applications and attachments on March 24th and use our online review system to evaluate each proposal on the criteria listed on the left of the screen. Reviewers will meet at RMHF in late April to discuss and share feedback on applications. They will then reach a consensus on who should be funded and submit their recommendations for final approval by our Board of Trustees in May. I do want to point out on the right side of the screen, here we have listed helpful hints for successful projects. Proposals. The first one is detailing the barriers to achieving health and/or housing equity. Make sure you mention the history related to these issues with the communities you serve. With calling for changes, again, what is the change you want to see happen? We understand this could shift depending on feedback from the community. On your project budget, detail how you arrived at the amount for the artist fee. Is it by hour, by month? I will say I am deeply committed to making sure artists are paid adequately, and will say this one is a requirement. There should be some logic for the reviewers to follow. The MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, is not a requirement, but I think it would definitely be helpful and could lend itself to aiding in calculating the artist fee. The Community Benefit Agreement. Now, this is normally something that you do with development projects, but in this instance, I think it would be helpful for community engagement. Again, it's not a requirement. However, it is extremely helpful for engagement to ensure that everyone is aware of what to expect during the participatory sessions and what anticipated outcomes are, especially if they are developed together. This is something that you can detail will happen in your timeline that you submit and could provide it with once it's completed in one of your interim reports. Priority will definitely be given to projects that remove barriers to participation for community members, like transportation or childcare. And if you have any experts on site to help with conversations around the barriers the community members face. One of our past grantees working with youth around mental health issues had a licensed mental health professional on site. Here is our proposed timeline. The February 13th workshop will be detailed a little later, but notice that notification of whether or not you receive the grant will happen in May. And the first payment will be distributed in June, with the second in June 2021, we break the payments out into two payments. So if you apply for $60,000, your first payment would be for $30,000. I've developed some frequently asked questions that I think will be helpful for all. The amount of the grant award is a 2-year grant of up to $60,000 for each funded project. Nonprofit organizations working with artists in the counties of Chesterfield, Goochland, Hanover, Henrico, Powhatan, and the city of Richmond are invited to apply. We do look for mission alignment. For example, are you working with underserved communities? Does your work address removing barriers for the community? We also endeavor to support our region's richly diverse artistic community and that funded projects adequately pay for the talent, skill, and time that the artists devote, which many go above and beyond. I do see, Jess, that you asked, will the slides be sent after the webinar? They will, and they will be housed on our website. I also want to say that I can make an argument for how almost anything is a form of creative expression and how we are all artists. I'm also an accountant, and there's artistry in that. Kind of a joke there, but if I must name some type of art eligible for programming, I will say any, including music, theater, visual art, dance, public art, filmmaking, poetry, and spoken word. Speaking of theater, I do want to let you all know that I'm excited about an upcoming meeting I have with an artist who is doing legislative theater in Charlottesville on February 6th. Legislative theater is where local partners and community members create and present original plays based on lived experiences, addressing timely local issues. In public performance forums, audiences are invited to improvise alternative responses to systemic problems on stage. And together with advocates and stakeholders, these ideas are then developed into specific and feasible policy proposals. The proposals are then put to the community for a vote, and policymakers like City Council, the Mayor's Office, carry these proposals forward to their respective chambers, ultimately using theater to spark concrete change. It's absolutely amazing, and the concept of legislative theater embodies all the goals of Hearts, and I just wanted to share that. See the next slide here. Okay, again, Hearts 2020 will run from June 2020 to June 2022, and again, if funded, you would be responsible for a timeline with benchmarks and an interim report and a final report. Teresa, I will definitely share that information. You are also encouraged to participate in quarterly co-learning sessions and racial equity trainings. Well, you could also be asking yourself at this point, why should I go through this process of submitting a proposal if there is no guarantee of funding? Well, I do want to let you know that our review system is online, and reviewers have to comment on all the answers to each question for all applications. They offer very thoughtful insights to what you propose to accomplish. We offer this feedback from the reviewers to everyone that applies, whether you're selected for funding or not. However, if you are not selected for funding, please just make sure that you reach out to me for that feedback, and I'll send it to you. Okay, back to February 13th that was highlighted on the timeline. There will be a workshop for anyone thinking of applying for Hearts that will provide introductory level guidance to support your ability to articulate clear plans for evaluating potential projects. The workshop objectives will be to investigate the various ways of knowing what is happening with your potential project, defining the desired outcomes for your project, and tracking and monitoring your outcome measures. This is free for all thinking about applying for Hearts, and a link to sign up is shown on the screen. It will be provided to you all as well after this. The workshop again will happen on February 13th from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at RMHF right here at our office. please sign up and spread the word to others that are thinking about applying for Hearts. We will also offer a more detailed workshop for those who are selected for funding after June, and then also individual consultations so you can ask specifics about your projects. We really want to help with the evaluation piece. The quarterly co-learning sessions proposed will include presentations by guest speakers, field experts, and past Hearts grantees on subjects like Health Equity 101, community engagement, racial equity, policy and advocacy, housing equity, arts as research, and artists as researchers, and the role of storytelling. We received such positive feedback from prior Hearts cohorts, and they helped in building a community where wonderful organic partnerships emerged. It was fantastic. We are also encouraging, again, not requiring, all artists to attend artist development classes at the ICA. Paul Rucker offers these great classes, and some actually happen before funding announcements will be made. Please take advantage of them. I will let our cohort, once applications have been approved, know when other classes are announced. I do want to let you know that the chair of our review panel for this year is Jamie Bennett with Art Place America. And also, whenever we bring these national funders or experts to Richmond, we make time to take them on tours to see the wonderful work our grantees are doing. This will absolutely not change. Last but certainly not least, we will host cohort gatherings twice a year in June and December, and the gatherings will include current and former Hearts grantees, all in the effort of just fellowshipping with food, drinks, and wonderful conversations. The cohorts are like family. Hearts is family. So what are you waiting for? Apply and join our Heartists. I love that picture right there. And so now this is the time, if there's something that I did not cover, feel free to ask, or you can email me and we can schedule a time to talk. I'm here to make this process as smooth and uncomplicated as possible. If there are any questions, please just go ahead and type them in the box on your screen. Looking at your question first, Teresa. I represent a storytelling nonprofit organization. I saw when you registered, I'm really curious into learning more about your organization. Our staff has backgrounds in expressive writing, photo, voice, and the theater of the oppressed. Yes, yes. Katie Rubin, I'm going to be with her. She's coming to Richmond Memorial Health Foundation on the 5th, and then we're going to see her conduct a workshop on the 6th in Charlottesville. I will consider us artists. Will we still need to partner with another artist? No. You would need to identify someone as the main artist, however, or a couple of main artists that will be responsible for the creative aspect of your proposal. Megan, can an organization apply only one of RMH? Nothing precludes you from applying for another opportunity here at RMHF. So we have several that are available right now. It's a busy time, and you can apply for them all if you meet the criteria. You're welcome, Teresa. I'm glad, James. I'm glad. Are there any other questions? Thank you for that question, Leslie. Since this is a 2-year funding opportunity, it will not be offered next year. It will be offered 2 years from now. Absolutely, John. Nothing would make my heart smile more than, a collaborative proposal. So the more the merrier. Great question, Teresa. I will say we're not giving preference to any. However, from past awards that we've issued, we have not really had that many with the performing arts. So I personally would love to see more proposals come in with performing arts. Absolutely, John. Absolutely. Can an education institution like VCU be one of the nonprofits? Absolutely. Are there any other? Oh, okay. Can the project be formative in the sense that the artist may want to pull in community, other artistic input to name the final project? Yeah, so we understand that the projects giving feedback from the community and giving them agency to name solutions or, to name the barriers that they face. We understand that the original goal or aspirations of the project can change based on that feedback. I hope I'm answering your question, Leslie. But if anything comes up where there are changes, always reach out to me. And we've been pretty flexible in the past. And as long as there's feedback from the grantee to us, letting us know about these changes, then there's no issue with that. Just to confirm, is it okay for multiple 501c3s to submit a collaborative proposal? Absolutely, Colleen. Yes, absolutely. Just going to give it Megan. Since there is such an emphasis, rightly so, on communities naming their own barriers and needs, could the project be emergent? Yes, yes, absolutely. Are there any other questions? And again, don't feel like you have to have the question right now. I am always available. You can email me, call me. We can schedule a time to meet as well. And, if you're able, come on February 13th. I do want to say thank you for spending part of your Thursday morning with me and our MHF. I look forward to reading all about the changes you aspire to make in our region and the creative process that will guide it. Again, please spread the word about this opportunity and the free workshop on February 13th. Thank you. This will end our presentation.
This concludes today's webinar. Thank you all for your participation. You may now disconnect.